Calling from a 502 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
This is, my name's Tom. I'm from Lexington, Kentucky. I go to UK, and I'm a philosophy major, and I got really into the Frankfurt School because of my professor, Arnold Parr, who helped found the Herbert Marcuse Foundation, and they do a conference every 2 years, and Angela Davis has spoken at it. And I just want to say, like, fuck Jordan Peterson and all of them for misrepresenting what the Frankfurt School actually said. Because if you look at it, Adorno told us Walt Disney was the most dangerous man in America, and look what Disney's doing right now. They completely control culture, and these guys were so accurate, and Jordan Peterson doesn't even have an undergrad's level of understanding, and it's super frustrating.
I think, when Jordan Peterson sort of wanders outside of his narrow expertise, it's sort of shocking that he even does that, frankly, but he makes an ass of himself.
Yeah, he does. And the whole narrative he's pushing, Herbert Marcuse talks about one-dimensional man, and I think Eros in Civilization too, and he sees the diminishment of the white alpha male, which was never really a thing in my opinion, but that's been the narrative in our society for so long, and it's just so threatening to these people, and it cracks me up.
I have a question for you. You know what else also strikes me as funny is that when Peterson is not doing just the white reactionary identity politics stuff, but he kind of talks about, conformity and sort of lack of meaning and those types of themes. You kind of pointed to it earlier, but the Frankfurt guys actually described that way better than he did. Like, even where he's stumbling into legitimate territory, the people that he demonizes and misrepresents covered it better and before he did.
Yeah, pretty much. And he
got it.
He completely takes the whole postmodern idea of deconstructing things and using them to make your own meaning, and then just bashes it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He
has
harnesses
no basic
it.
Understanding.
Yeah, and even and it's funny, like, even in, I'm doing some research on this, and there's a guy, James Hillman, who was a Jungian, but wrote these books in the 90s. Like, he wrote one book called We've Had 100 Years of Therapy and the World is Getting Worse. And his whole argument was that therapy had become too depoliticized, and that instead of orienting, like he was saying, like, sometimes you're enraged because your boss is exploiting you or the traffic is terrible. It's not like individualized problems. And that was another, and he rooted it in the stuff that Peterson talks about all the time. So it's just weird to me that even when he has these, like, even when he appeals to these traditions, he even does that in such a totally distorted, either apolitical or really reactionary way. And it's just unfair, like, every time.
I think there's something about people who come from a discipline that is focused on the individual, where they have a set of assumptions that exist, and so everything is seen through that lens. It's a little bit of, when you're a hammer, everything's a nail, and so it's necessarily, when you're talking only about the individual, the politics become very narrow, right? But yeah. I appreciate the call.
Yes, sir. I'm glad I got answered.
Thanks.
Thank you.
What was that? He just got
so Jordan Peterson got corrected by something called the Heterodox Academy, which I haven't heard of, but apparently he used them to cite this idea that let's see, the first tweet: who exactly is the alt-right anyway? Social sciences and humanities are thoroughly dominated by leftists, even the Marxists, as documented by the Heterodox Academy, among others. So this is sort of like a Marshall McLuhan, not to love my work scenario. The Heterodox Academy says, studies suggest Marxists outnumber conservatives in some social research fields, but this is not because most are Marxist, but because there are so few on the right. Even in the most unbalanced fields like sociology, Marxists nowhere near a majority. Marxists are certainly hugely overrepresented given their small share of the population, and conservatives vastly underrepresented, but this is not the same as Marxists dominating any particular
Well,
field.
you can be, particular.
Okay, fine. Let's be very precise.
Conservatives choose to be unrepresented via their lifestyle decisions.
Yeah,
they just are better suited to staying in the home. And
Well, if
raising
you
their
say
children.
that, Jamie, then you just leave everything up to individual choice in the market, and that's not very good in terms of distributing pussy to pale-faced, resentful men.
I just think it's curious that there's no right-wingers in climate science.
Yeah, it's just odd to me that the only right-wingers in climate science are highly subsidized corporate shills.